INDIKA is a misfit Russian Orthodox nun on a mission. She's tasked with delivering a note to the Danilov Monastery, which is a welcome reprieve because the other nuns in her own monastery hate her guts. Little wonder, though, she's not a very good nun.
Maybe you wanted to join them. Not bad either.
She's constantly harried by temptations and thought crimes, though whenever she proselytizes, there's a faintly ironic ring to it, as if she's still pretty sure about the whole nun thing. Across the 6 hours it took me to complete, our doomed hero moves through a succession of bleak, dehumanizing environments, solves a bunch of puzzles, survives some utterly miserable encounters, fails to achieve anything she set out to do, and then must go on living. It didn't make me feel good, but I loved it all the same. INDIKA's evocation of late 19th century Russia is sprinkled with horror-inflected surrealism. Outside the monastery's walls, everything is bizarrely oversized, even the mangy dogs. The world is pockmarked with unexplainable chasms and knotty architecture. Ruin is ubiquitous, though we're never told why. Environments rarely logically cohere. A town is shadowed by a giant viaduct, which is itself shadowed by an immense monastery. For some reason, I'm usually traversing this expanse via parapet and scaffolding. The result is impressionistic, dreamlike, and rotely video gamey at the same time. Not least because the soundtrack consists of ambient-leaning chiptune that sometimes descends into strobing dance. While its thematic concerns feel Dostoevskian, see especially the Grand Inquisitor section from the Brothers Karamazov. INDIKA's presentation more closely resembles the kitchen sink postmodernism of 90s film. For the Eastern Europe heads, there's also traces of Tarkovsky and a hint of the dejected humor found in Pathologic 2 and the novels of Laszlo Krasznahorkai. In other words, INDIKA's atmosphere draws from a variety of sources that are unusual for games to draw from, bolstering its disorienting weirdness to great effect. But that's not all. INDIKA's present-day journey is punctuated by a series of flashbacks taking the form of pixel art minigames referencing Pac-Man, Micro Machines, and Frogger, amongst others. But what registers at first as welcome tonal relief descends, of course, into skin-crawling darkness. The game's flagrant tonal disjuncture is one of the reasons for INDIKA's pre-release notoriety. It serves a greater purpose than flair, because INDIKA has some fun but ambiguous metatextual ambitions. For example, there's an RPG stat system, which I'm twice warned by loading screen tips that the points mean nothing. INDIKA appears to use XP as a form of spiritual currency. The greater her level, the stronger her spiritual restitude and power over her alter ego. But this is a game that revels in small ambiguities designed to tease questions rather than bludgeon with meaning. By contrast, it can also lapse into didactism. During one of the game's most disturbing scenes, INDIKA exhorts her devilish alter ego. The alter ego scolds her for irrational adherence to religious commandments, which is probably music to her ears, since at this point she's well past the point of forgiveness. In some ways, the game's habit of wedging heavy-handed speechifying into otherwise dismal set pieces is absurdly funny, and also not at all rare for Russian film and literature, but the experience is better when the art direction, especially the brilliant in-game cinematography, and also the phantasmagoric architecture is allowed to do the thematic heavy lifting. So, it's a mesmeric narrative achievement, but does it cope as a game? For those looking for a Russian take on A Plague Tale: Innocence or whatever, the brevity here, the linearity, and the inhospitably hopeless mood might be deal breakers, but I respect how INDIKA doesn't linger on some of its more interesting puzzle ideas for the sake of fleshing out its runtime. A lot of the game's confrontational power comes from the bracing abruptness of its finish. INDIKA takes some wild tonal risks, but mostly plays it safe when it comes to the stuff you do with your hands, and it's not always successful. Even if the ye-old faith versus reason debate does nothing for a big 21st century brain. The cumulative effect is a game that manages to mash together a bunch of familiar elements into a new form that's disquieting and gratifyingly obtuse.